Yeah, we're live. Hopefully we're live. Hopefully the levels are okay. That even made him scream. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Right, let me... I can monitor. Well, I can monitor what's going on there. That's cool. Let me hit play here. I don't want to be able to hear myself there. Right, I have to do the usual sharing routine. So, yeah, please do bear with me on that. Let me just share this post in a few places. Get as many people involved as possible. Right, where am I sharing this thing? Study Club is live. So if you are watching, please say hello. Let me know how the sound is, because the microphone's up here and I'm not talking into it directly because I want to be able to capture the guitar. And as this isn't a transcription video, you know, I want to be able to play and I want you to be able to hear me. So that's fun. I'll keep saying won't I? If you are watching this and if you're looking forward to this, then please do share. Share on your social media channels. Share it on Twitter. Share it on forums. Share it on Reddit. Share it. I know we're a little bit earlier than I usually like to stream, but that's because I want to be able to play through the amp and, you know, have people actually hear me. So speak, say something, Levi, say anything. Yeah, I think I can hear. Yeah, that seems to be working. A bit low, okay. How's that? Is that better? Chasing sound. Can you hear me a bit better there? See what else I can do about that. Let me go in here. Let's go... Okay, thank you. How's that? Can you hear me? Can you hear me a bit better now? Lucas, can you hear me? Okay, more. How's that? Oh, that looks like it's clipping. How's that? Hello? That looks like it's clipping to me. Hello. So yeah, what about the guitar? Let's see the guitar. Damn it. I mean, there's no way... I guess I can monitor this. Hang on, let me try this. Okay, you should be able to hear me now. Anyway, cool. We should probably get started, shouldn't we? So, hi everybody, Levi Clay here. We are doing Study Club. Study Club is something that is being brought to you by my supporters over on Patreon. This is something that I'm going to be introducing next month to my $20 tier. So if you want to do this every month with me, you need to join me on Patreon. But I'm doing this just as a kind of test to see how this goes and to give, see what works, see what doesn't work. So this month I am going to be looking at two books. Don Mock's Symmetrical Scales. Don't want that, do we? Don Mock's Symmetrical Scales, Diminished and Whole Tone Revealed, and also Bruce Saunders' The Diminished Workbook. So the point of this is very simple. Don't think of this as a guitar lesson. If you want guitar lessons with Levi Clay, that's easy. You hit me up and we hook up via Skype and I'll give you guitar lessons. It's great. Plenty of students and they're all developing. The point of this isn't a guitar lesson. The point of this is to give you an inside look into how I study, how I practice, how I take materials like these books and how I develop the material into my own thing and get it part of my practice routine and integrate it into my playing. And to me that's a very valuable skill to possess. Without that you are just repeating exercises that other people have shown you, and then you have no real concept of how to apply them, how to use them in a musical context, right? So I'm not so much of a fan of all of that. So that's the purpose here, and I have prepared. Let's show you how prepared I am. All right, I can see the chat there. I am prepared. I have, ta-da! Oh, where's my face? There we go. Ta-da! So I have made up, I'm just checking no other sounds have come through. I've transcribed, I've taken a bunch of stuff out of the books and written them out as examples. We will come to these. And of course I've got neck diagrams here, if we need that, to do some neck diagrams and things. But yeah, in essence, the goal here is to show you, get you inside my head and show you how I'm practicing, how I'm studying and how I'm developing my own playing. So hopefully you guys can develop some of your own playing. I'm going to spend the next 5 or 10 minutes just answering questions, just talking. I'll do a bit of playing just to warm up and get people in the door before I start going through the book. And while I'm doing that, I'm just going to hit this. Way! This is, of course, some of my Patreon supporters. So big thank you to you guys for your support. I'm just going to see if I've got any notifications on Facebook, because obviously I want people to get involved in this stream. And the only way I can do that is if people are actually checking it out. So Michael Norris has shared the post on Facebook. Thank you, Michael. Thank you. I appreciate that. Of course, there is a link below. Okay, so let me give you the full spiel. There are links below to my Amazon affiliates account where you can pick up copies of both of these books or either of these books, and I'll get a little bit of cash, like pennies, but it all helps. They're both great books. They're both very different books, but also very similar. They cover the same themes, same topics. But Don Mock's one seems to be a lot more about vocabulary, licks, and playing, whereas Bruce Saunders is a lot more about context and forcing you to deal with everything in context, right? So, yeah, there's a link below to those. You'll also find a link to my Patreon where you can, support me for as little as $1. Gets you access to my private patron-only Facebook group. Lots of cool stuff going on in there. You can also, of course, go onto Amazon.com and search for Levi Clay. My new book's not actually on that list for some reason, so I should probably add that. But, go to Amazon and check those out. And, of course, you can hit the Super Chat button on YouTube. You can Super Chat me, which will give you privileges in the stream. I will make you an admin, so people know that you're an awesome person that supports the YouTube streams. So if anyone wants to send me a super chat and help pay for these expensive lights, well, not the lights, I own the lights, but the electricity that they use doing this stream, that's also appreciated. Anyway, so let me just read through these comments. I'm going to say hello to everyone. So Chasing Sound, there we go, I said again. Hey Pat, and Paul's online, cool, Lucas is online. Yeah. Good evening, Michael. Hello, Shaleen Sharma from India. It should be interesting. One of the few books I've heard you recommend that I haven't yet gone out and bought. Man, you're crazy. These books are great. Bought my 3-book country compilation. It's one of my favourite purchases of the last year. Thank you so much for the support. Yeah, I'm proud of how that went. So, and building the tip. Right, I'm just trying to think if there's anywhere else I can share this. Hi Paul, I can't in good conscience share this anymore. So people who are watching this, please do head on over to your Facebook pages, your Twitter pages, and share. I'm just going to do a bit of playing just to warm up my fingers, because, you know, at the start of any practice session, I think it's very important that you warm up. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to improvise on A, and that's really important. The fact that I've said on A or in A, I'm thinking of a context. I'm not just playing fingering exercises. I'm not interested in that. I should also point out, I'm sorry if I keep doing this tonight. I am sore. I've just had all of that tattooed, and that's a really uncomfortable place to have tattooed, and it's also even more uncomfortable because it's resting against my shirt. So yeah, I'm just going to improvise and I'm thinking A. So of course that would mean that I'm thinking... So I'm thinking triads, you know, that gives me a sense of harmony. And anyone familiar with my channel will have heard me do this a million times, but... Don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, am I warmed up? Let me see. How long have I been streaming for? Not that long. Oh. Oy vey. Oy vey. Good to see you, Krill. Kirill. How's it going? Yeah, let me do the same thing, but with some context. So I'll just add an A and a D just to warm up. And diminished will factor into this, of course. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's not do that. Let's do 4 bars on each. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 bars on each. So. Everyone needs to tap. Okay, cool. I feel pretty warmed up. I feel pretty good. I feel relatively musical. Let's ruin that with some practice, some study. I should also just point out, I can't believe I've not made this mention yet. Of course, what do you think I'm using today? I am using VPix. And of course, big thank you to Vinny for supporting the channel. Tonight I'm using a medium pointed ruby red. So it's 2.75 mil. Medium pointed is my go-to pick. Big fan. So head on over to vpix.com and use the code LeviClay2018. LeviClay 2018. I'll get you 20% off. Anyway, cool. So why don't we dig into these books? Don Mock's Symmetrical Scales, Diminished and Whole Tone Revealed. So those unfamiliar, Don Mock is the big daddy of education. As far as education goes, there are a few names that have a lot of historical relevance for electric guitar, at least. Over in the UK, we have big names like Sean Baxter and Phil Hilborn. They are obviously lesser known when you compare to the American market, which is obviously huge. But Sean Baxter in particular, he was one of the founding members of the Guitar Institute in London. He wrote the first ever graded exams in the UK. He has a long pedigree of education. And when you look over to the States, they have a similar, line of teachers. There are names that are just kind of the go-to for modern electric guitar instruction. People might argue you've got Bert Weedon, you're playing a day. But if you go to the kind of 70s onwards, the guys that you're really looking at, the important names would be Howard Roberts. And there's a Gibson Howard Roberts there, so I'm a big Howard Roberts fan. And Don Mock is another big name. And the reason for that is these are guys that were right there at the start of that LA scene of education. The Guitar Institute, GIT, Don Mock was there at the very beginning of that. I don't believe he started the school. It was Howard Roberts and someone else. That's embarrassing. But yeah, Don Mock would go on to be an important figure in education. He's written a few books. There, of course, is this one, Symmetrical Scales. He wrote one on melodic minor, which is a great book and well worth checking out as well. He also did his Modal Mojo book. He did Mastering the Dominant Chord, and he did, Jazz Guitar Masterclass, something like that. The book. Those are all great. He has an instructional video with REH, Don Mock, The Blues from Rock to Jazz. We can grab that. It's just there. And I have featured this on my guitar instructional videos that you must own. So if you go back to that REH instructional video era, the good days of guitar education, Don was also a producer for most of those videos. So if you look at Paul Gilbert's Intense Rock or the Pat Martino videos or the Joe Pass videos, what you're going to see in the introduction to those, when you watch the credits, you will see Don Mock's name there. Very, very, very important figure in education. And there's a reason for it. He is an excellent teacher. He is an excellent guitar player. And although he has a couple of albums, and I have those, his legacy is always going to be in education. So I would... Don Mock, thank you very much. I assume my check is in the mail. I'm a huge, huge fan of Don's playing. Actually, if you look at this, look. See this book? See the guitar on the cover? See that? See? Do they look familiar? Do they look similar? Look at that, look. See that? Huh? Yeah, same guitar. So that guitar, I was going to use that tonight, but it needs new strings and I couldn't be bothered to change them. These books and also the Brent Mason instructional video has one of those guitars in it, and that was kind of one of the reasons I always wanted one of those guitars, both the Brent Mason video and these books. So these were a really big influence on me. when I was developing my playing. Having said all of that, I don't consider myself an expert in diminished playing. I can use diminished, I can play diminished, but it's, you know, when you compare to what I just played, where I'm improvising on, keep trying, you want to see, what do you want to see? When I'm improvising on something like that, just two dominant chords, right? A7 going to D7. I don't struggle with that at all. My ability to improvise diatonic vocabulary on dominant 7 chords using, you know, your typical Mixolydian blues sounds, that's effortless. I can do that all over the neck, and I can connect ideas and phrases really well. Diminished I can do, but it feels a lot more forced. It feels a lot, it's not as intuitive. It's something that I need to think a lot about, think a lot more about. So it's something that I'm constantly wanting to work on and constantly wanting to develop. So I thought that I would use these books as a way of doing that, and study club would be, you know, it's probably the most honest thing I can do. I really like that idea of, you know, here's me practicing. I'm not the greatest guitar player in the world. It's so easy to go on YouTube and think that everyone you listen to is great, but, you know, Guthrie Govan, fantastic player, of course. But, you know, he sucks behind closed doors. He never shows you that, but it's important to remember that good players suck behind closed doors. So, and I think that should be celebrated. I think, you know, when you suck, that's okay. Let people know you suck. So I'm going to read this in a second, but I'm just going to address these comments. So, do I ever target the 7th as a landing chord tone? Yes, Christopher, absolutely. I think the 7th sounds excellent if I'm playing. Same thing if I just do this. So that's me targeting some 7th. I do like the 7th. Carverhain is also another master in natural sounding diminished. Yes, Carverhain is absolutely a beast at that. Carverhain, a big influence on my playing, actually. I try not to steal his vocabulary, but, you know, all of that. I've studied a lot of Carl's playing, so huge fan of his. And there would be another name. If you look at his instructional videos, you're going to see Don Mock's name in association with them. So same way with diminished. Love the sound. Feels forced when you do it. Well, hopefully, Nate, we're gonna fix some of that today. So and here's a good point from Michael. I find the symmetrical nature of the scale means I sound like I'm playing patterns with the diminished drums. Yeah. We'll come back to that. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at the book. So dealing with symmetrical scales, diminished and whole tone revealed. I could have actually just read, you know, the foreword and told you about Don Mock from the book, but I wanted to do all of that spiel where I told you about Don Mock from memory. I wanted you to know that he's a very important figure to me. I saw something actually where somebody said, do you like Floyd Rose's, the tremolos? I don't own a single guitar with a tremolo on it. I'm currently using my Mayonnaise Hydra. It's looking needs a bit of a clean there. This is my Mayonnaise Hydra. I've just put new pickups in it, which you can see there. They sound fantastic. I'm not going to name what they are until the company gives me the respect that I deserve. Don't mug me off, cunts. So yeah, I don't. Every guitar that you can see in here, and this is just a small collection of my guitars. I've got about 16 of the bastards, and I don't own a single guitar with a tremolo, let alone a guitar with a Floyd Rose. So yes. It's harder for me to hear and therefore play melodies over diminished harmony. Carverhain is an all-around monster here. The Great Cat, I do know the Great Cat. I don't think the great part is really apt in her name. Yeah. Anyway, I'll carry on. So let's deal with the book. So he talks about three steps to success. Learning to improvise can be thought of as a 3-step process. The first step is typically learning of scales. Using either the key center approach or the modal approach, students should learn at least a few useful fingerings of the major scale and be able to play them in all keys. Also, in this first step, players need to learn about the harmony in theory to help understand which scale fits over which chord. Armed with some theory knowledge, students can immediately begin playing over even difficult chord changes by simply switching to the correct scale or key center for the given chord. So let's address that. Right off the bat, that's not how I think about things. I don't think in terms of scales. I think in terms of chords at all times. If I'm playing over an A7 chord, I'm not thinking Mixolydian, and I'm certainly not thinking D major. I'm literally thinking, and then those notes, I can connect with notes of, you might call it a scale, but I'm not thinking of those notes as being scalar notes. I think of them as being melodic ways to connect notes of the chord. So that's how I'm thinking on that stuff. And to be honest, I find that makes improvisation even easier. They are Toyota pickups, yes. Yeah, cool. So let me carry on. Most players, after a period of time, will begin to find this step limiting, which is how I feel. They may say that they can't seem to make their solos sound like the chords, and that they sound too scalar. It's almost like I should have carried on reading, right, before I criticised the point. Moving on a step or two, we introduce arpeggios as a tool to create chord sounds. Mixing arpeggios with our scales starts making our solos sound more harmonically intelligent. And I couldn't agree with that more. That is exactly the point. I just figure out why bother with the scale step? Why not deal in arpeggios and then start to connect your arpeggios up with melodic content? Because that way, it's easy for me to play. There's a load of chromaticism there, right? But that still sounds like an A7 chord, because I'm never losing sight of that arpeggio. Whereas if you start trying to just play chromatics, that doesn't sound like an A7 chord to me. So step 3 is the final frontier of improvising. As we now start really learning music, so far we've been using scales and arpeggios, but may not have been able to make our solos sound melodic. Now is the time to learn melodies. Most of us need to learn a repertoire of melodic lines to use when we improvise. Almost every one of our favourite players has, at one time or another, learned lines by copying recordings or transcriptions. I've met many students who tell me they don't want to sound like anyone else and feel they shouldn't copy other players. They soon realise that the road to originality goes through the land of copying licks, phrases and concepts used by other favourite players. Eventually, these influences merge together into your own original style. Again, totally agree with that. There's a lot of... That's all vocabulary, It's like learning to... Hello, Mr. John. Mr. John. Yeah, I had my hair cut yesterday, so looking relatively swish. What do you think of my Richard Spencer haircut? Apparently I'm part of the alt-right now as well. Anyway, so I think, yeah, that's totally right. Improvisation is vocabulary driven. And of course you can learn to improvise without learning any vocabulary. If you think of like players like Holdsworth, he doesn't play a lot of traditional vocabulary, but therein, to me, lies the problem with his playing. It's not a problem with his playing, it just means it's hard for the layman to latch on to what he's doing. Whereas when I play... you can relate to that, you understand it. One last thing, a common misconception about improvising is the phrase playing what you hear. Many players say that they do this, leading students to think that they simply make up music on the spot. What they're really saying is they're playing what they know. Improvising is the spontaneous performance of ideas that come to you in the midst of soloing. You may not know ahead of time what you're going to play, but armed with scales, arpeggios and melodic ideas and theoretical concepts, you can play creative and spontaneous improvised solos. Yeah, I mean, he's a bit kind of black and white there. You can improvise vocabulary that you've never played before, of course, if you really tune in and really listen. But Carver-Hayne said that, on the best night of your life, you might be doing that 5% of the time. On the best night of your life. So, yeah, there's always going to be a degree of playing things that you have probably played before, right? So, yeah, let's keep going, right? I'm not going to read the introduction or anything like that, but under how to get the most out of this book, the best way to get the most out of this book is to scan through each chapter first, get a feel about where and what the various topics are, and if they contain information that you already know. You should read every page carefully, but it's okay to start with any section of the book that interests you. So I'm going to throw that out the window and go right from the start. We got a question. So, what is that? Deep Tonobo Data. Hi, love your playing and have learned a lot from your videos. Thank you very much. I'm working on my legato, trying to get more fluid while playing over the changes. What sort of theoretical approach to players should I follow? I see what you did there, Kirk Wammett. You're into your profile switching again. I'm not the guy for legato, but obviously I can point you in the direction of players that are amazing for that. I would encourage you to look up the playing of Brett Garsed. He's obviously amazing. Alan Holdsworth, of course. Bill Connors is really good for that type of playing. Alan Hines is another player that's really good with that type of thing. And of course, if you want education in that area, you can't go wrong with players like Tom Quayle or Luca Mantavinelli, who is basically just an Italian version of Tom Quayle. You could just go to the source and get the Tom Quayle stuff, but if you want more material, Luca Mantavinelli, he's a fabulous legato player. So there should be some good names for you. Hopefully the outside name there was Bill Connors. I've transcribed a fair amount of Bill Connors these last couple of months. So what we need is someone to send me a super chat so I can make them an admin and they can randomly delete Kirk Wammett's posts just to annoy him. Right, let me read this next comment. Do you think a person like Guthrie has the same opinion, and has he copied a lot from different players to the point of his vocabulary is so big because of his work as a transcriber? 100%. 100%. You think about it logically. I'll give you a good example of this, actually. So I did Japanese in college, right? And college was decades ago now, getting on for decades ago. I'm an old man. So I don't remember much of it, but the things I do remember are phrases. I remember sitting in class, getting an understanding of how sentence structure worked, and had basic vocabulary and could look up words. Therefore, I could construct sentences. I practiced constructing sentences, and almost all of it is gone, apart from "Anata wa okasa wa bocho bocho kabucho desu," which is "your mother is a stupid fat pumpkin." How do I remember that? It's because it was a phrase, and when Guthrie picks up the guitar, he can, just draw upon all of these influences, all of these things that he's listened to. When you get really good on the guitar, you find that you can learn new styles relatively quickly because it's really just a case of exposing yourself to these sounds, and then when you pick up a guitar, you hear things and you go, "Oh yeah, okay, I know how I can play that." So yes. Let me keep going. Anyway, so Unit 1, he talks about modes of the diminished and whole tone scales. We're just dealing with diminished today. So for those unfamiliar, the diminished scale is a scale constructed of consecutive whole and half steps. It is a symmetrical scale, meaning that you can start on any note. I pick the note B, and then if I go up a whole step, I'm going to then go up a half step, and then I'm going to go up a whole step, and then a half step, and just keep repeating. And that's your diminished scale. Try that again. Apparently I can't do that. I'll say it. Whole, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole, half. There we go, got it. So that would be the diminished scale. And the problem with this is, whole, half, and half whole, because I could also start on that B and go up a half step, and then a whole step, and then a half step, and then a whole step. Those are both diminished scales. You will sometimes see the first one referred to as the whole half, and the second one referred to as the half whole. I'm very used to being called a half whole. Levi Clay is a half whole. So that was a terrible dad joke. I should not do that anymore. So you need to get familiar with those two concepts. He deals with them in the book by talking about the C diminished scale and then the D dominant diminished scale. And I like that vocabulary. I think it's very useful to think of the half whole scale as being the dominant diminished scale, and the whole half scale as being the diminished scale, because the scale that starts with a whole step you will use on diminished chords, and the scale that starts with a half step you will use on dominant chords, but we'll get into that shortly. So yeah, we don't need to deal with the whole tone scale. So, static and functioning dominant sevenths. There are two primary types of dominant chords that are mostly defined by their context or function in the progression: static and functioning dominant seven chords. Traditionally, dominant chords function as transition chords that lead to other chords by creating tension. The natural response to this tension, called dissonance, is the desire to hear that tension resolved by moving to another chord. I refer to these dominant chords as functioning dominants. Makes sense, right? If I play a blues in the key of A, chord 1 is A7. Then we go to the 4 chord, D7. Now this D7 isn't functioning. It's not. You expect D7 to resolve to G, but it doesn't resolve. It goes back to the A. So that's non-functioning. Static, stationary dominants are not as dissonant, and they can be, and they're not used to lead to other chords. Static dominants are usually vamps or extended grooves, where the tune may stay on a chord for a long period of time. All dominant chords can be used as functioning dominant chords. They can be extended, C7, C9, C11, C13, or even altered, C7 sharp 5, C7 flat 5, C13 flat 9, etc. Static dominant chords can always be extended, but not usually altered, because the alterations add too much dissonance. The only exceptions are the sharp 9 and the flat 5, so I don't know whether I agree with that. I think when you add a sharp 9 or a flat 5, you are adding tension to a chord. You're just so used to hearing those things that you can accept them in static context. But I think, usually when I hear those, I kind of want the chord to go somewhere. So here's the interesting thing. Notice how the dominant diminished scale contains every altered tone but the sharp 5. And this is really the key, right? And I don't feel Don's book really goes into this in enough detail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play these scales, and I'm going to name the intervals. Let me bring that level down, then, Nate. Just a little bit. I'll try not to dig in. I'll put it on single coil mode. So yeah, if I look at C whole half, right, I'm going to play C whole half. That would give me the note C. Actually, I'm not going to talk about this in terms of note names. We're going to deal with this purely from intervals. So the first note would be the root of the scale, then we'd have the second of the scale, then we'd have the flat third or sharp 2, which is the fourth, and then this would be our flat 5, this would be our sharp 5, that's your 6th, right? Or double flat 7, which is the diminished note. And then you've got a major 7 in this. So that'd be our whole half scale, our diminished scale. Let's read these comments. No, you couldn't. The 4 chord couldn't be interpreted as a function because a dominant chord isn't functioning unless it resolves by going up a 4th or down a 5th to its tonic chord. So D7 doesn't resolve; it doesn't go where you expect it to. Simple as that, really. A7 in the blues, it's functioning here because you play it for 3 bars, and then in that 4th bar, it's getting ready to resolve to D. It moves up a 4th. Anyway, getting sidetracked. Thanks for a reply, Levi. Got to catch the rest of the stream later. Cool. Thanks for tuning in, Christopher. And I will, well, I won't see you later, but you'll see me. Cool. So, yeah, that's important. Everything we've dealt with there is very, very important. In fact, so important, I am going to bring up my other screen. And I am going to bring up net diagrams. I'm going to create a little neck diagram for you, because this is going to be really important. And this is how I practice. This is totally how I practice. I'm not being crazy. So I'm literally just going to put in C whole half, right? So whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step. I'm going to double click this, tell it that this is my root note, and now we can see our intervals here. Am I okay with it staying like that? I'm gonna shut up. I'm going to make that a sharp 5. I'm going to make that a sharp 2, just so we can see it in relation to what it is. And I'm actually going to make this a double flat 7, because that's really what that is. In fact, if I make that double flat 7, then I've made that a flat 6. Point is, when I look at this, what I'm trying to do is I'm looking for harmony. I'm trying to see what exists in this. And there's no major chord in this, right? Because a major chord has a major third in there. And there's no major third here. There's also no 5th, and we have a 7th, but yeah. I guess you could, yeah, no, you can't even really make a minor, can't even make a minor 7 flat 5. The only real chord contained in this, believe it or not, I'll change this note again. Only chord contained in here would really be diminished, right? 1, flat 3, flat 5, and double flat 7. If I take those notes, 1, flat 3, 1, flat 3, flat 5, and double flat 7, do that in C. 1, flat 3, flat 5, and double flat 7. That gives us a diminished chord. So the whole half diminished scale is used on diminished chords. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to deal with what Don deals with. In fact, I've got fingerings here. So we're just going to deal with that fingering for now. Oh, you can see that. So I'm just going to take a second to play that. Old Man Daddy-O from Tenerife. That's my dad. Hi, Dad. Will you send me a super chat, Dad? So yeah, I would practice this scale. Whoops. But the important thing is chord, right? The important thing is harmony. So I'm just going to lay down a little loop. Just C diminished, right? So we can really hear it. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Add some more notes to it. That is not the right notes. Yeah, that should do. So, now I'm just going to play my scale against that so I can hear it. What does it sound like? Cool. So right off the bat, that sounds good. You know, it sounds like the scale. What have we got here? There we go. I said again. Trying to move books out of the way so I can deal with this correctly. So how do I practice this? Well, what I've done there is really, and this is totally how I practice. Usually I don't use neck diagrams for this, but I'm going to use neck diagrams just so you can, get inside my head and see what I'm seeing. So I will just draw out my scale. That's our basic scale, right? But what I should really do is make all of these hollow. Damn it. Try that again. And I'll tell you why in a second. I'm going to make some of them black in a second as well. So this is our scale. You put these intervals in there if you need them. That's the actual scale, but I feel what's much more important is to see a chord, to really see harmony when I'm doing this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use black notes, and I'm just going to fill in an actual chord, right? So that would be a diminished chord. And now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to associate this fingering, this scale fingering, with this chord pattern. So what I'm going to do is, let me bring up Guitar Pro. Man, my tattoo is sore. This will start to make sense pretty quickly, to be fair. So if my chord is this, damn it, where did that go? There you go. If my chord is this, let's try and make that correct. Damn it, what is that? Am I in C? E flat, G, oh that's that. That should be a double flat really. I'm being pedantic. Right, I'm going to put both of these on screen so you can see both of them. So yeah, I'm looking at the chord, and what I'm really trying to access is a way into that scale, but without having to jump down to the bottom of the scale. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use each one of these scale degrees as a jumping off point. So my flat fifth, for example, here at the 7th fret, I'm going to practice just this. So it would be 7, 9, 10, 7, 8, 10, 11. There we go. So I'm getting, no chance that GP file is downloadable. Paul, I will be everything that we, and I should point this out, I'm just going to bring up the credits. The whole point of these live streams, of these study club streams that I'm going to be doing, is those are for patrons. And currently it's a $20, it's going to be a $20 thing. So anyone that's in that $20 or above thing will be able to do these streams with me every month, and I'll look at a new book and I'll go through it, and you can get inside my head, and you'll be able to download every guitar profile that I make. So yeah, these will be going up, all of these guitar profiles will be going up for all of my patrons in my Patreon group. So yeah, there's your answer, sorry. How would I use this over diminished major 7? What the fuck is a diminished major 7? There's no such thing as a diminished major 7. I'm going to stop getting distracted there. So yeah, what I'm trying to associate is this chord, this C diminished 7, and then this. So I'm trying to associate it, I've just repeated myself, trying to associate it with this chord voicing. Sorry. And because I'm playing this in relation to like caged vocabulary, to me, if this is my root, I know this must be my flat 5, that must be my flat 6, that's my 6, that's my 7th, that's my root, 9, sharp 9 or flat 3. So I'm gonna cheat now. I'm gonna give you a chord progression that I practiced this on, and I'm gonna call this a diminished chord, even though it's substituting and functioning for a dominant chord. I'm just gonna play G major, then G sharp diminished, A minor 7, diminished chord with a major 7. It's the second mode of diminished. We've done this. There are only 2 modes of diminished. Second mode of diminished is a dominant 7 chord. It's 1, 3, 5 flat 7, and it gives you a 13 flat 9 chord. But if what you're saying is adding a major 7 to this chord, so I'm playing this, right? That would be this, right? It's the same harmony in my mind. It's still just a diminished chord. I'm not changing the harmony in any way. Anyway, chord progression: G major, G sharp diminished, A minor 7, and then D7. That's going to be my harmony. So I'm just going to set that up as a loop, and you'll see why. So 3, 4. Now when that G sharp diminished chord comes in, I've got my access to the scale now. Right, I'll do this. So I've not given myself enough time on each chord really, but using this cage knowledge, I'm now finding ways into the scale. Whenever I can see the chord, I've got a way into the scale, and forcing myself to practice anything or practice everything not starting from the lowest note in a position is really helpful to me. So if I just continue on, I want to get really used to the idea that when I play the flat third, I could then come down and do something like that. So ba 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 ba. That doesn't help, does it? We can't see everything anymore. Ba 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 ba. Okay, so I've got the same piece of information there. Ba ba da 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 ba 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 ba. So anytime that I see this chord voicing, I've got it's a way into the scale. And I force myself to work on those associations with every chord voicing that I know. So, all of this will work for. here's where the diminished scale gets tricky though, and this is really, to be honest, the part that I want to be working on. So I've just done all of that for this chord voicing, but it's also useful to do it for this chord voicing. So that would be 3, 4, 2, 4. My scale would be lots of ways I can finger this. Don't know if I want to put it there. It's a tricky one, really, isn't it? How do I want to finger this scale? So let's go bum bum, ba ba bum, ba 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 ba. It would definitely, I'd finger it like that. Da 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 ba 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 bum ba 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 ba. Yeah, well, let's do it like that. Let's just do that for now. So slightly unorthodox fingering for it. I think a bit more modal. What would you say the more you're using is? Sounds like harmonic melodic minor. It's nothing to do with harmonic or melodic minor. It's the diminished scale. It's the diminished scale. It's consecutive whole and half steps. Huh. So. You could think of it as lots of things, but yeah, it's a symmetrical scale. Kirk, no, this stream probably isn't going to be 4 hours because I'll kill myself. Anyway, point is, same process. So what I want to do is I want to get used to holding this chord and seeing a way into this scale. So forcing myself to see this note, the flat third, and starting to associate that with... Start seeing that flat 7, or sorry, double flat 7, and oh, are you getting a bit sassy with me, Kirk? That's a bold position to be sassy when you're a fan of Kirk Hammett. Yeah, cool. So that's me starting to associate it with this chord position. So what I would force myself to do is get used to using that in the context of a blues, because I have to always ask myself, where is this harmony that I'm working on? So in this case, I want to be dealing with a diminished chord. So I'll just go back to my blues in A, right? If I'm playing a jazz blues in A, I put a diminished chord in there. So diminished chord would be E flat diminished 7, which is then going to my A, then 1, 6, 2, 5. So if I just play perhaps that middle part of the blues, like... got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm forcing myself to practice this, see this diminished chord when it comes in now, and see that scale, and then resolve that to A. So that I'm going to spend a lot of time now. In a practice session, I spend a lot of time. So. So I totally fucked that. Let's go again. So my D, arpeggio. D7. Diminished. And it, it works. It sounds like the chord. Based on that, I mean, I sound more like Monday and Matt. So D7. Now we've got one diminished. And I always resolve it, right? So it's diminished, resolving. So D7. Same again, D7. D7. A7. So this is really a visualization exercise more so than anything, and I find it also helps to be able to see a diminished arpeggio. Because then I start to get this association between 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's try that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my chord. Arpeggio. Yes, I did have a little cameo in his stream last night because, yeah, I saw that he was streaming on my PS4 and I turned it on with my wife there and we laughed at him and I said I'm going to text him and wind him up. It took him about 10 minutes to read the text, so unfortunately I had to watch 10 minutes of Marcus streaming. Now hopefully you can see what I've achieved here, right? What I've achieved is I've not achieved that. That's just me singing. What I've started to achieve is I'm starting to associate this chord voicing, right? And then, more importantly, where am I playing it? Here? Yeah. So this would be my diminished pattern, right? We've all played this diminished pattern, hopefully. I'm then associating, filling in those blanks with this. So I have my arpeggio. Now it's starting to sound like music to my ears. Don't ever check my Instagram DMs per chance, do I, Levi? Occasionally. Nowhere near as often as I should. Have you messaged me? Have you DM'd me? Let's have a look. Oh, requests. Okay, yeah, I see you. I'm not gonna say what your Instagram name is though, unfortunately. Okay, so Mr. John, you said I would naturally think / play of the 7th position. You see, I don't know what you mean by that. I'm Deaf on Fire, excited to have stumbled upon this. Thank you for doing what I do. Yeah, hopefully you're going to enjoy this. Yeah, I just checked. Cool. So, yeah, I'm starting to feel quite comfortable with that diminished chord now. Okay, so you're talking classical guitar 7th position. I naturally think I'll play at the 7th position. What, in terms of this? So yeah, what you've suggested there, John, Mr. John, is exactly what I would do normally, but that's my default. And I find that if I'm thinking of this chord, but in this position, I'm not really associating myself with that diminished chord. Of course I can play in that 7th position, but I want to get really comfortable with seeing this chord and then being able to play and sound like that chord. Because really, you know, when we're talking about playing on a blues, I need to be able to play A7, D7, back to my A, and then to my D, and then to that diminished, which resolves to my 1 chord, and then I need to hit that 6 chord, and then I could do the same thing on this. I could then treat that 5 chord as being like diminished. But now I've got an into. I can play diminished. And that's just going to happen for me. Anyway, shall I go back to the book? So I did a lot of sidetracking there. I'm just going to punch that up. Just again, say a big thank you to my supporters over on patreon.com. Thank you for making these streams happen. Thank you for making me do these things, try new things. It means a lot that you tune in and that you enjoy them. Actually, I don't care if you enjoy them. I'm doing this for my own practice and for my own study. So now, yeah, as you go through this book, he goes on and he talks about just different fingerings of things. But here's where we move into the interesting thing. So everything that we've covered so far has been thinking of this in terms of diminished, thinking of it as being whole step, half step. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step. But if we jump over to the other book, I'll bring myself back up now. If we bring myself back over to the other book, the Diminished Workbook, the Bruce Saunders book. It's a great book, really good book. Literally the first chapter, the first page 4 in the book, but the first page of actually teaching you anything. He talks about, in brief, diminished chords. Diminished chords fulfill a dominant function and are often used as a secondary dominant chord. One way to identify the function of a diminished chord is to consider it a 7-flat-9 chord, then look at the following familiar chord progression. So he then has written out C major 7, C sharp diminished 7, D minor 7, D sharp diminished 7, E minor 7. That type of thing, right? And he points out that a C sharp diminished 7 is really an A diminished 7 chord with a flat 9. So if you play A7 flat 9, what you have there is a C sharp diminished chord over an A bass note. So this chord, this C sharp diminished chord, is really functioning as an A7 flat 9. And when I put it in that context and we start seeing this diminished chord as really being a substitute for an A7 chord, and the same in the next bar, D minor going to D sharp diminished, really that's just functioning as a secondary dominant B7 flat 9 chord. Then this progression, C major 7, C sharp diminished, D minor 7, D sharp diminished to E, suddenly becomes C major 7, A7, D minor 7, B7 going to E. And yeah, that works. So really what we're talking about there is anytime we see that diminished chord, it can be functioning as a what's the word I'm looking for here? Someone help me out. A dominant chord down from the third. It's a common thing that you're going to see. Just about any time you're going to hear a diminished chord, it's usually functioning as a secondary dominant chord. And for that reason, I think that dealing with the whole half is less useful than thinking of everything as being half whole. So let's show you what I'm talking about, and then we'll practice that, and we'll hear the difference between these two sounds, right? So if I go up here, I'm just going to move this out of the way. I'm going to move that up there. I'm going to copy this, move that down there. I'm going to add one more note to this. add that note. I'm going to change this note to my root note though. Get rid of that note. Change these for squares. So hopefully what you can see there is, I've not really done much. These two scales, in fact, let's make it complete, right? So these two scales on these two diagrams, they are the same set of notes, right? But our perspective of where the root note has changed. At the top here we have C whole half, and here we have B half whole. But when we look at the intervals in this, well, now we've got some harmony. Now we've actually got something that can be used. We've got the root, we've got the third, we've got the fifth, and we've got the flat 7. So that's a dominant chord. Contained in the half whole scale is a dominant 7 chord. And if I think of it harmonically further than that, we have, I'm going to change this for a sharp 9, just so we can see that as being a sharp 9. Flat 5 can stay where it is. 5, 6 and flat 7. We could think of this as being 13, flat 9. So if I think of this in terms of like harmony, what we have would be a B7 chord with the flat 9, the sharp 9, and the flat 5. But it has a natural 6. So if you wanted to play a chord that sounded like this scale, you've got like a dominant 13 flat 9 chord. Oh, Hank, please tell me what happened with Ursin. So yeah, 13 flat 9. So generally speaking, anytime I'm improvising, if I'm playing on a blues, again, believe it or not, if we're playing a blues in A, at this point this A7 is functioning, it's about to resolve to D. So I will treat this as being a 13 flat 9 chord. In fact, if I just lay that down, check this out. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's bar 1. It's tension and resolution. So we'd have bar 1, bar 3, and then bar 4 to bar 5. So that, using that 13 flat 9 in there creates a bit of tension. So what that tells me is I can use that half whole thing there. Check it out. 1, 2, 2, 2. See, it works. It sounds melodic, right? Yes, Norbert, exactly. He said something about me. He just can't let it go, can he? He said something positive about me. That's interesting. That's interesting. Seeing as I deleted him from all social media platforms and put my videos of him back up. And my dog's an arsehole. That's what my dog is, Mr. John. Anyway, so now we're moving into what I deem to be the interesting thing. Now we've got an understanding that these diminished scales can actually function in a lot more useful ways. Like even at the end of a blues, when I go when I put my turnaround on a blues, right? And I go 1, 6, 2, 5. You know, I could treat that as being A7. Then my F sharp 7, I could treat this as being like that diminished sound if I wanted. That would give me like B minor 7 to E7 flat 9. Yeah, so over that I could literally just play half whole diminished. If I played A7 like this, and then to my F sharp 7, B minor 7 to E7. You heard the harmony there. Let's try that one more time. A7, F sharp diminished. B minor. And then E, we can play half whole diminished. Can't do this apparently. There's the fingering. I said one more time before, but let's go one more time again. And in fact, I'm going to lay the chords down just so you can really hear that. So to summarise, not summarise, but to just really let you know what I'm doing, I am going to play A7, F sharp 7, B minor 7, and then E7. And on the F sharp 7 and on the E7, because they're both functioning, I'm going to play half whole diminished over each one of them, and it will sound good. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, I'm going to play a whole chord on each just so you can really hear the harmony. 1, 2, 3, 4. Minor. Let's have a look. So thanks for pointing out on Marcus's vid that yeah, I've remembered that comment now. So what are we getting here? Wow, this is getting out of hand. What I'm seeing nipples and yeah. Let me see if I'm getting any comments on Facebook. No, apparently not. Shut up. Yeah. I don't knacker my 0 frets out as often as that, to be honest. I've had the same 0 fret on my red video for like 3 years now, and it's doing all right. So anyway, yeah, what we've got into there is we've dealt with this idea that diminished vocabulary, it can be a really handy thing. You can use it in a lot of places, and I want to get better at it. But now we move on to the point that Elio, yes, this will be available on playback. Now we get into this territory of vocabulary, right? So if we go to this untitled thing, this is just stuff that I've taken from Don Mock's book, right? This is all in the book. Link in the description below if you would like to purchase the book. You should. It's a great book. So yeah, this is Unit 5, Diminished Scale Sequences. So Don says, I'm not a big believer in exercises. I would rather show you some ideas that are not only good for building technique, but are also melodic and interesting enough to use when performing. I have to admit, however, that I'm caught in the middle when it comes to scale sequences. Although they border on sounding like plain old exercises, scale sequences can be a powerful melodic tool when improvising if used properly. Sequences are a process of playing the notes of a scale in a mathematical order. Typically played as descending or ascending lines, sequences can be made up of 2 or more notes. Sequences can also be a significant help in learning scale patterns and can offer some very challenging picking and fingering movements. Due to their symmetrical patterns, diminished and whole tone scales are naturals for applying sequences. The diminished scale offers more cool sounding sequences than any scale that I can think of. Coming up are a few favourites. Check them all out on the CD before you learn any, and then pick 2 or 3 that you like best and to get to start with. Get them down as well as you can and use them. And he emphasises use them. Learn the others only when you feel you can add them to your playing without jeopardising the ones you first learned. It's much better to have a few that you can use instead of several that you're struggling with and can't quite play. It's great advice. Several of the sequence examples are shown with a suggested chord that they fit over. However, one important thing about diminished melodies is they will always work over several other chords too. Later we will explore how to use the diminished scale in detail. So know that if a sequence is shown for G7, that it will also fit over a B flat 7, a C flat 7 and an E flat 7. These 4 chords are all equally spaced a minor third apart, blah 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 blah. So example 4A, this is vocabulary that he has for an A7 chord, and that's this here. So I'm just going to play this now a few times and get it under my fingers and get an idea of what the sequence is. Just reading these comments. Descending chromatic lines on the high E become moist. Fair point, you only have one proper guitar, but the thing with a 0 fret, the reason it gets more wear is because it's always in use. When my guitar is just hanging there, the strings are pressed against the 0 fret, so yeah. Proper guitar, yeah, Vigier. Vigier is a proper guitar. Yeah, I still love my, this guitar here. I'm thinking of retiring it because it's so special to me now that I was going to say, like, I don't want to get it damaged, but it lives in my studio and I use it in my studio. So anyway, so yeah, here's that line. Let me play that line, and this is a sequence. You will hear a repeating phrase. In fact, Don has written, let's begin with a few classic diminished sequences. A line every sax player knows is this one for G diminished. It's built with the scale tones in this order: 2, 1, 4, 3, 6, 5, etc. We'll come back to that. Many of the sequences and licks in the diminished scale include fourth intervals. This line will help you master the technique of fingering fourths with a bar or 2 notes played with 1 finger. Fingerings are notated, and if you have barring. What does he say there? The fingerings are notated, full stop. If you have barring with your 4th finger, the fingerings can be played in many instances with a combination. I feel like the wrong word has been used there. If you have trouble barring with your 4th finger, yeah, there's missed out the word trouble. I can read, I promise. Cool. So the sequence sounds like this. Let's try that again. I don't like that change there. Try that again. Now, of course, that's a very cool sequence. I want to try and get. This is where the real practice comes in for me, right? I love sequences like this, and Michael made the point earlier when he was saying that, you know, what his struggle was with playing diminished. He said that it often sounds like he's playing patterns. To be honest, that's why I lean towards scales like diminished. I want to use a symmetrical scale because of its symmetrical nature. I like the sequenced element of it. If I want something that sounds less sequenced, I'll use something that doesn't sound as good when it's sequenced. I'll use Superlocrian, or I'll use Phrygian dominant, or whatever, you know. Comment, Levi, back me up here. Yeah, I was born in England, sorry. Yeah. So this sequence, 2, 1, 4, 3, 6, 5, what we're really talking about is it's a descending second. Start on a chord tone, we descend down a second, we then ascend up a fourth, and then we go down a second, up a fourth, down a second, up a fourth, down a second, up a fourth, down a second. And that's actually why, when I was playing that, because I latched onto the fact that this was a sequence, I'm just going to add a few more lines in there, and I'm going to fix it. So after playing this first note, I picked up on this sequence, right? And then we play the same thing, but a flat fifth higher. Then the same thing, but a flat fifth higher. So when it got to that next string, it seemed logical to me. To finger that like this. 9. Yeah, 9, 10. Sorry. And this is the problem with diminished, and I've probably lost that pick. Let me try and get that. I got it. So now I've got something that makes a lot more sense, right? Now I'm trying to see this as fitting around that A. And I'm going to experiment with it and do things like that. And here's the secret for me, right? The secret, and it's not a secret, is that, yeah, those are Adam Neely's t-shirts. Adam Neely made those shirts. The secret for me is knowing that because this is a lick in A, when I'm here, can I see a resolution? I can see my C-shaped caged system. Oh, it's just occurred to me you can't see that lick. There we go. I can see my C-shaped cage system. Paul, I know you're obsessed with how I pick things, so I can do it both ways. I can alternate pick that. I can alternate pick it fine, or I prefer the articulation of alternate picking for stuff like that. I don't know who Brian Zeiger is. I don't know who Tyrone the Toucher is. I did see Marcus today though. He's well. He's worried that he was going to get banned from Twitter. I did see his 5-hour video. Yes. Cool. So yeah, when I'm working on a sequence like that, the key is no matter what I do, it doesn't matter where I stop. I can always see an A7 chord. If I resolved it there, or also practicing resolving to the chord that it's actually going to. So in this case, A7 resolves to D. So I'd get to the top there. And then resolve to D. Or resolve here. And here's the key part, right? Using a loop. Alright, so I go 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my D. So. Now the thing I was going to say struggling with there, what does it sound like in triplets? That's a concept we were going to come on to later, but let's do it. So I'll be hearing that as sorry, what was I saying? Yeah, so the struggle that I'm having there is, not struggle, but the lick currently deals with, starting here on the root note. Whereas what I really want to learn is I want access to this vocabulary starting somewhere else. So I'm a big fan of hitting the third, right? So I'm going to force myself now to just take a small part of the lick. I'm just going to add one more bar to that line. No, fuck it. I'm going to add a whole new line. Because I want you to see how I really think when I'm forcing myself to practice. So I've got my arpeggio. My arpeggio is this. Okay? As you well know. And I want to be able to access the lick from that third. So I'm going to practice doing that. I can put the desktop audio up actually so you can hear this as I'm writing it in. So comments. There's my D, yep. Oh, you're so kind, Hank. Yeah, cool. Do it by all means, Nate. Please do check it out on replay. So, yeah, now I'm forcing myself to practice my arpeggio, and I'm using the third of the chord as a way into this lick. Triplets. Well, thank you very much for tuning in, Mr. John. Don't worry, you're not missing all that much. I'll be heading off at some point. It's cool that we've had 50 hours of content watched already. I'm gonna just share the live stream one more time. No super chats though, so why do we do this if it's not for money? Where the hell is the button? Ah, view on watch page. There we go. Should do this really, shouldn't I? Yeah. That's not displaying correctly. Scumbags. Facebook has removed my post because it looked like spam. Cheers, Facebook. Make my job really easy. Anyway, so yeah. Oh no, wrong screen. So I'm trying to deal with this lick here, this vocabulary. So what I'm going to do is, typical blues. And you force that licking at that section, so I can get better at hearing and playing that as an access point. 3, 4. I've completely fucked that. Let's try again. Oh, look at those super chats coming in. 3 of them in such a quick period. Well, Hank, thank you very much. You've been made a moderator. Guitar Pro 7.5 is much better, yeah. Just for you, Hank. How's this? That's all you get. So yeah, just forcing myself to put that diminished vocabulary in a small section like that. And then same again. Now diminished. Diminished. So diminished. Totally balls that one up. Let's try again. 3, 4. And again, so A7. Diminished. Totally ballsing that up. But this is practice. This is what practice sessions are. I'm going to stick with this until I get stuff that sounds good. Try again. I'm hearing a lick there. I'll play with that for a second. There we go. That's really tricky. Try again. What's that question I just saw coming? Yeah. So would I say that I never think of whole half diminished when I'm playing, always just half whole? Yes, there of course, Michael, there are absolutely settings where that won't hold, and the obvious setting for that would be like the diminished chord you play in a blues. That actually doesn't function, the flat 5 diminished going back to the 1 chord. So over that I do play whole half over that, yeah. No, I've given him too much power. Cool, Norbert, thank you very much for tuning in. It's going to be on my channel forever, so if you want to come back and finish up where you left off, it'll be here. Oh, my arm is sore. Let me... Oh. Son of a bitch. Okay. It's my overdrive. Diminished, Levi, diminished, diminished. Okay, so I'm going to move on and play a different sequence because this one's not sitting well with me, but that's okay. You know, that goes back to what Don said. So if we look at that next sequence, this one's cool. This one's really cool. When you get this one under your fingers, it sounds like this. What chord has he got this over? For some reason, he's got this over a B7. We don't want this to be over a B7. We want this to work over a G7 chord, right? So if I just do that. Can I scratch what? If I just do that, this should now function. Just double checking, yeah, over a G7 chord. Oh no! With great power comes great responsibility. You have no great responsibility anymore. Anyway, so the lick sounds like this. Actually, we wanted this in A, didn't we? So let's move that up a tone. So blues in A, in bar 4, when an A becomes an A. Okay, so let me clarify here. In bar 4, in a blues, A doesn't become A diminished. The A7 just really has function in bar 4 because it's about to function as a 5 chord resolving to the 1. So I'm not treating it as an A diminished chord. I'm treating it as an A7 altered or A13 flat 9, which would actually be B flat diminished. So I'm thinking half whole. But then in bar 6, where the D goes to a D sharp diminished, yes, because that's not functioning. You've got more responsibilities than me, to be fair. My dogs probably need feeding. Oh, you're funny. I like you. So, yeah, in bar 6 where D sharp diminished, I'd think D half whole because it's not in that place. I mean, it may be, but I can't really find a way where it's functioning as a dominant chord there. I can't work out any way that it actually functions. It really is just diminished. Anyway, so this sequence, a few more times. I'm not looking at the book because I know this one. It's the same principle, right? So I'm working out my way into the lick. So I can play it off the root. So I can play this sequence. I should be able to play that on this blues. It's great there, right? I think that's unfair, Hank, okay? I think that's very unfair. There are at least 4 people that watch the guitar solos when you add me and Mike into the equation, so at best you're 1/4. Ow. See, I don't know. That's me forcing myself to play on the root, so maybe. You've not seen this guitar before, John. This is my Myonair's Hydra. Absolute beauty of a guitar. Yes, it's headless. So it's super light and just comfortable. You know, I can sit with this on for like 10 hours and not really feel it. It just doesn't weigh anything, which is nice. So yeah, one more time that lick. Doesn't go to either. Carried away. Never saw the back of the neck. Oh, I see. No, it has a rounded neck. It's a pretty standard, electric guitar, but without a head. To be honest, mahogany body. It's what is that? 7-piece neck, 5-piece neck. But yeah, rounded, comfortable back of the neck. Sorry, I just thought you meant headless. Oh, let's keep going. So yeah, in this sheet that's going out to my patrons, because of course this is all about Patreon. Why are you not joining Patreon? Why are you not joining Patreon? Because I need to learn chords. This next sequence I'm a big fan of. I played this one a lot. This is probably the diminished sequence that I know the best. So this is one, yeah, I'm super familiar with this. Really familiar with that. And of course I could practice playing that anywhere. I know that one really, really well. So it's a good opportunity to move on to the next point. So yeah, Don goes on to talk about playing each of these sequences and offsetting the notes in them. So he has that same sequence first played, well, on the beat here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And actually it's 16th note, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So on and so forth. And then starting on the 4th, 16th note, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on the 3rd, 16th note, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then finally starting on the 2nd, 16th note of the previous beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So on and so forth. That's cool because it it just forces you to play the sequences with the accents in a different place. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So on and so forth without the mistake. And then 3, 4. Three, 4. Are you just down in Airdrie, John? Anyway, getting carried away. So another sequence. Let me do another sequence, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about Bruce Saunders' book, and then I'm going to go and play some Monster Hunter because yeah, why not? Who's the better shit poster, Marcus or Kieran? Absolutely. I don't know. Kieran, because Kieran's posts are shit posts. They're worthless. They don't mean anything. They don't need to exist. Would that fit on a major 7 in 251? No. No, think about it. And this is really the point, right? The point of everything I've talked about today is about thinking harmony, right? So we know where each of these scales, what they're constructed of. All right, and a major 7 chord in a 251 is 1, 3, 5, and 7. Now, neither of these scales have 1, 3, 5, and 7 in them. The whole half has 1 flat 3, flat 5, and 7. And the half whole has 1, 3, 5, and flat 7, so they won't work on the 1 chord. But that half whole will work on the 5 chord in a 251. So if I play. One, 2, 3, 4. I get that right. Says our 251, right? Yeah. You've already corrected yourself. Minor. diminished played on a 5 chord and a 2-5-1, which I didn't seem to make any mistakes on, so evidently I do know this stuff. And I can phrase with it, but I'm using sequences. So, yeah, you know what, I'm going to move on. So that's a good summary of what symmetrical scales is about, and honestly, like all we've covered there is the first 16 pages of the book. Not even at the halfway point yet. There's 64 pages in the book. So, you know, it's a good one to check out. And you know, I was hoping that in this stream I was going to cover the entire damn book, so I would have absorbed all of the information in it. But again, it's one that I'm going to keep coming back to and just keep soaking up information from. As I say, I find that Don's book is a lot more about licks and vocabulary, and the Bruce Saunders book is a lot more about context, like where these things are played. So if you go through Bruce's book, it doesn't have any of these sequences. I mean, it does, but they're later on. What it has is chapter 1 function, and then it talks about the scale and the chords that fit around the scale. And then right away you have the arpeggio scalar exercise where he plays C major 7, C sharp diminished, D minor 7, D sharp diminished, C major 7, just repeating that. And in fact, let me play the exercise that he plays in the book for you. So he literally just does this: 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm just going to force myself to read it while he's doing it. So he does this. He moves faster there. I probably should have played the chords slower, so I could really deal with that. But yeah, so he deals with function. And the last kind of exercise that I wanted to really move into practicing is he has the beginning of the song How Insensitive, and he's got a bit of an analysis of it. We've got D minor 7 for 2 bars, C sharp diminished 7 to a C minor 7, and then straight back up to that D. So I'm just forcing myself to, or he's forcing you to start seeing that C sharp diminished 7 as an A7 flat 9 chord. So you're practicing D minor 7 to diminish, C minor 7, D minor 7, D minor 7, diminish. Now you see how this is a lot more in line with my way of teaching, because right off the bat he's dealing with arpeggios. That's his starting point, that's his point of reference. We build everything on top of arpeggios, and I like that, so arpeggios. I'm just going to read comments. What's the difference between Molly, the drug, and Hellcat Molly? One is unpopular but good for you, another is extremely popular but very harmful and destroys lives. I disagree with that, because I would not say that Hellcat Molly are either unpopular or extremely popular. They don't exist in either of those paradigms. Yeah, so next example is chord tones on strong beats, and again he just has C major 7, 1, 2, 3 to 4, diminished 7, and then D minor 7 to E flat diminished 7, and then E minor 7. And it's just forcing you to practice C major 7, and then to E flat diminished 7, D minor 7, E flat diminished 7. You know, I think training your ears in that respect is so much more important than just playing a bunch of fast licks. So if what you're looking for is vocabulary, I would recommend the Don Mock book. If you're looking to improve your ears, the Bruce Saunders book is, you know, excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I'm just going to pick something that's cool. And to be fair, I just like the fact that, you know, it's just pages and pages of actual etudes. Whereas the Don Mock book is just, you know, here's a sequence, here's a sequence, here's a sequence. Yeah, diatonic function. I mean, there are licks, don't get me wrong, but, you know, sequence after sequence after sequence. Let me just record this. I'm going to practice this little etude just to give you an idea. Tonic diminished, he's called this. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Let's try it again. And again. And it goes on, and if I were to play the entire thing, we'd have this 3, 4. Ah, fuck. My reading's not too bad. So that, you know, to me that's really, really cool. Oh, it's getting a bit hairy in the comment section. It's such a heavy book, such a heavy book. Yeah, this is better than the Don Mock book. Definitely better than the Don Mock book. It's hard. This is just notes and notes and notes. And to be fair, I kind of take issue with stuff like that. It's nice that he gets into rhythm changes in here. Like if I just lay this down and try and play this. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Fucked it. Played the wrong chord, that didn't help. 3, 4. 3, 4. Damn it. F7, D minor 7, G7, C minor 7, F7, F minor, B flat 7, E flat, A flat 7, D minor 7, G7, C minor to F7. We'd have I can't. Way too fast. Let's play it slower. Should have tested that beforehand. 3. No, fuck that. Well, that's one that I really need to practice, right? Wow, what's going on here? Christopher Sidney Brown, do you have a chance to process what you're playing when sight reading? No, and yeah, I think that's really the point, right? When I find an etude that I like for example this one, if I just work on this, the first 2 bars, okay, it's a B flat triad, and then we go to, well, I can see that that would be G7, it's coming at that diminished scale, right? Starting on the 3rd, so, and then C minor, more likely to play that there, but that's just a C minor arpeggio, and then we have this. Well, I can already see that that comes out of. So that's all we're taking for diminished, and also, so we now have B flat triad, diminished, C minor to F 7 flat 9, and then D minor 7. This makes sense. That's straight D minor, and then is Paul off? No worries, Paul. I'll catch up with you soon, man. And then again, that's diminished. Then we've got C minor. Cool. It's all C Dorian, right? And then, well, that's diminished. F altered. F7, F diminished dominant. Yeah, so I can't process that when I'm reading it on the site, but yeah, it makes a lot more sense as I go back and analyse it. Wow, so to be honest, I feel that I've had my ass kicked, totally kicked by this. The Dom Mock book is for kiddies, but this Bruce Saunders book is this is a serious book. So I'm going to put more time into that. I'm going to make that part of my practice routine. I mean, the whole point of this stream, right, was to show you how I practice. So now I've got something like that under my head. I'm just going to practice like B flat to G7, C minor 7 to F7, and get used to that concept. B flat triad, and then diminish. Going to C minor to F diminished, and then resolving to B flat. So I've taken that concept now, right? jazz is so boring. Yeah, no worries, Dennis. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for the super chat, and yeah, I'll chat with you soon. So jazz is so boring. Yes, I agree. But to be fair, becoming a good rock player, for me, was about thinking like a jazz player. Not playing. I'm not a jazz player by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm very much a rock player, a blues player, a fusion player, a country player. I also find jazz relatively boring on its own. So. But yeah, thinking like a jazz player on a blues or a rock tune or whatever. I mean, I feel like you're trolling now. You prefer classical music. It's harder to play and it sounds better. I mean, I don't think it's harder to play, is it? Definitely not harder to play. Wow, these comments are really coming in. So, I really like the fact that all these comments are coming in. I feel like I should just stop playing now and just, engage with you guys. I'll tell you what, with one last thing that I've not done, and that's the best context for this diminished stuff, and that's how guys like Martin Miller use this stuff. So we're primarily, I would imagine, rock players in this thing. So if I did something like this. Like that, 1, 2, 3. That's me playing diminished over a minor sound, and And I like that. If you go like the 2005 Fusion where you have... when you put yourself in that Greg Howe Fusion land. I should stop with that silly tapping, shouldn't I? Anyway, point was, if you listen to guys like Martin Miller, you know, when he treads, when he wants to play really cool fusion, fast fusion lines, just forcing diminished, half-whole diminished over a minor chord actually has a really cool kind of like Mike Stern, John Scofield sound to it. So I'm a big fan of that. Anyway, let me read these comments. So I love the conversation that's going on here. What was I going to say there? John Brown, yeah. So I like to take all of my cues from John Brown, and I just watched a recent video with John Brown, and the two quotes that stuck with me from it were, "I don't use a neck pickup. Neck pickups are dumb," and also later on, "What does that sound like when you play a solo on it? I don't know, solos are dumb," or words to that effect. It just made me chuckle. Neck pickups are dumb and solos are dumb, and I can kind of get on board with that. And based on that, both jazz and classical music can kind of go out the bin, go out in the bin. I just want to write riffs nowadays. I just want to write grooves and that make people, you know, bang their heads and have a good time. Anyway guys, so that should do there. Just going to put my credits thing up while I take my guitar off my shoulders and hang it up. I can't hang it up, it's headless. I can go there though. Yeah, I'll sit here and take questions for a few minutes, and you know, if there's anything else you want to ask, I'll be here. And then I'm going to go play some Monster Hunter. So, anything anyone wants to ask me. Anything at all. That's a bitch. Oh, it goes all the way around there. Fucking hell. Go rocket. Go rocket. Real jazz teachers, local to this area. I mean, the only person I know that is relatively good at that, I don't know if he'd teach jazz, would be Barry McAleenan. Tonight, Christopher, I've been using my Fender Bassman. Like my Fender Bassman, and I'm using. It was just clean with reverb pedal for most of the part, and then when I turned on overdrive towards the end, that was a Wampler Paisley drive. So yeah. Should you be on the $10 backers, Rodney? Are you not? Should you be and are you not? Let me have a look. And if you should, I'll fix that immediately. I'm looking. Should be on there. I don't know why you're not. Let's have a look. Wow. Yep, that's my bad, man. Let me fix that right now. You were on there. Surely you were on there. I don't know. Did your card get declined at some point? I'll add you to that right now. Looks like I need to go through and check that all again because I thought that was up to date. That shouldn't be like that. Oh, and you want it in bold font. Okay. That seems fair. There you go. Sorry, man. I have no idea why that's out. I wish you'd pointed that out to me sooner than that. Surely you were on there, though. Have you just upgraded to 10? Yeah, John. I've not actually tried the Bassman profiles and compared them to my actual Bassman. I tend to use the Kemper for overdriven tones and distorted tones when I'm tracking rock and metal stuff. If I'm just playing in the room and playing country or jazz or whatever, I'm just busting out the Fender. So yeah. Greta Van Fleet's better than Led Zeppelin. I'd go with that. I mean, that's annoyed me, man. Like, maybe even worried me. You must have just been bumped off that. I must have bumped you off instead of someone else. It was someone that got deleted from the $10 this month. So look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. There should be 19 names on there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9. There's 18 names on there. So someone else is missing. Let's play the game of who's missing. Oh, is it Ben Smith? Ben Smith joined us this month. Let's add Ben Smith to this list. Damn it. Okay. I don't know when Ben joined us. Okay, I see why Ben wasn't on there. Let me check you, Rodney. I think it might be the same. Oh no, you should be on. Don't know, mate. Don't know why that happened, but fixed now. Thank you very much, Mr. John. You have a good night. I don't know who any of Marcus's trap friends are, unfortunately. Marcus has 2 lives, right? He has his life of autism with all of his weird autistic friends. And then he has like a more grown-up life. Now, that involves people like me and my wife and his wife-to-be and very few other people. And when he's in those settings, he doesn't really fit in. But he's trying to make more of an effort to, you know, not be weird and autistic all the time. So when it comes to all of Marcus's weird things, I don't participate in that. Like, I'm not a member of his Discord or anything because I can't deal with that level of stupidity and autism. And when I say like autism, I mean genuine. Like, Marcus is autistic. And he has a large portion of autistic friends. And of course there's nothing wrong with that. I just find it hard to kind of connect with what's going on when that he engages in that. So yeah, I don't know about any of these traps. I'm just there when he needs a grown up, you know, like someone to help him with his car, or someone that can actually turn up to court, or someone that can be his best man. Yeah, you were definitely in the $5 at some point, Rodney, because your total is a $5 amount, so you've bumped up, and for some reason that didn't get updated. But fixed now, and you can stay in capitals. Anyway, let me carry on. Any plan to do gigs, Elio? Not right now, man. I'm not in the habit of throwing money away. And going out and doing gigs just costs money, and well, I guess in the grand scheme of things, doing this stream costs money. I had a few super chats come in, but I probably burnt more electricity than I got in super chats. But having said that, this is only 2 hours of my time. Now, a gig would be 2 hours of my time too, but it would also mean, you know, travelling to a gig, setting up, finishing, packing down, and driving home. My wife will be home in like 20 minutes, and I'll be able to see her, which is I wouldn't be able to do if I was doing a gig. Also, my band is spread out across the country now. After I left London, you know, my drummer left London. Doug is still in London. Dave is in Birmingham. Lee is in Leamington, and I'm up here, and we don't have a bass player anymore. New Michael Romeo record is really good. Yeah, I've had someone request a transcription from it. I need to email them back and deal with that, because I would love to do that. Yeah, I think it's a good record. It's kind of just a Symphony X album with a different singer, and I would rather it was a Symphony X album with Russell Allen on it. There are elements that you don't really hear in Symphony X. It's very, very kind of film score-esque. And I actually quite like the song, what is it called? Machine Fuckers or something like that. Which has got like a weird, almost like orchestral dubstep spin to it. I thought that was quite cool. Yeah. You're 14, you're a brother who loves to nut. Please, I need some more chaps. Why do I associate with these people? How long have I been in Wishy? I don't live in Wisher anymore, I live in Motherwell. But I've lived in Scotland for like, I don't know, 5 years now, something like that. I don't know who Joji is, sorry. Same routine as whenever I talk to Marcus, like I said, I saw him today, and he's just reeling off all of these dramas that are happening with all these people, and I'm like, I don't know who all these people are, Marcus. And he's very surprised by this. He's like, what do you mean you don't know who this guy is that said this one thing on Twitter once? Greg Koch, I love Greg's playing, yeah. I could pull out one of his DVDs as well, I think it's over there. Where's that Greg Koch DVD? Oh yeah, Greg Koch, Guitar Gristle is over there. Greg's great, killer player. Has Rusty shown off his new Ormsby? Yes, I've seen Rusty's new Ormsby. I'm a bit concerned. Has he announced that he has an Ormsby? I'm not much of a drinker, but when I do drink, I'm fine to drink Buckfast, yeah. Okay, cool. Let me have a look at what Rusty posted, because I'm not saying any more until I see what he posted. There we go, yeah. Yeah, I've known about Rusty getting an Ormsby for quite a while now, actually. I talked to him about it before we did the interview. We said we weren't going to talk about it on camera, but he showed me it then as well. And I'd seen pre-production. I'd seen pictures of it before Rusty had got it, because obviously Mike is an Ormsby artist, so he knows what happens behind the scenes there. Looks like Rusty's going to leave Dean, yeah. Crazy, I know, but sometimes you just need a change, right? We've all been there. Nothing wrong with my Vigier or any of the Vigiers that I have. I just felt I needed a change. So, change can be inspiring. Why is my dog whinging? Do you want to come on the stream, son? He wants a guest appearance. Come on. Come here. There you go. I've got. No, don't go over there. Don't go over there. Come here. Good boy. Hey, Braves. Hey, you Mikes. Come in there. Oh, Teddy, calm down. Oh, you should. I don't know who Sam is. I don't have a Sam. My mum is Sam. She's not here though. Come on, Teddy, on you go. What is it? Go away. Go on you go. Ah ha ha ha, I see what you did there. We're doing another Guitar Souls tomorrow night, so expect a new episode to go up soon. Not that you asked. Any more questions? Why am I so tired? I didn't even get up early today. Probably because I've been working all day. Dougie Smith. Who is Dougie Smith? Oh, is he? Is that the singer from Wishaw? No, I don't know who that is. What I need to do is sit down with this and get working on my next book. Should do this really, shouldn't I? Invented the 3-string puller. I think I have actually seen some of those kicking around. I'll probably be doing a stream next Friday as well, guys. Doug Cartwright is up, so I'll probably come online and you know, do a little hello. Really? Really good? No worries, Christopher. Things have quietened down. Thank you very much for tuning in. Yeah, thank you all so much for the support. I should probably log off too. Get myself a drink and tidy up before the wife gets home and she murders me. How? Will you stop it? Alright guys, yeah, I've been on for way too long, so I'm going to log out now because I've been on 2 hours 45 minutes. I mean, normally I do 4 hours, but you know, this is a slightly different experience. So in summary, what we did here tonight was Study Club. Study Club is going to be something that I'm doing once a month on my Patreon group, so if you would like to check it out, please do check out the link in the description. You can join us and have one of these streams exclusive to you guys on that tier. Once a month you get to come on and you know, learn some stuff, which is always cool. I'm taking book suggestions. I have another book, Barrett Tagliarino book lined up to do it on too. Hi bros. If you shit right now, I will not be impressed. If you just stare into that camera and do a shit, I will not be happy. Yeah. So check me out on Patreon. Please do share this video with your friends, share it with your enemies, hit that subscribe button, check out my books on Amazon and all of that good stuff. You are all good people and you allow me to do what I do for a living. So yeah, big thanks, and all of your continued support is appreciated. Rodney has asked, do you know what the binding is like on Country Guitar Compilation? It's well bound. I should have a copy of it. Hang on, I'll have a look. Well, you can't go out just yet. Where is my country book? I can't find it. You do. You spy my golden multi-act nylon string. I used it in the last video on my YouTube channel, teaching Jerry Reed stuff. yeah, I did a post asking what people thought of spiral bound books on my Facebook, and I was surprised a lot of people like spiral bound books. So I'm looking at spiral bound books for future potentially. But yeah, good point. You know, overall, to be honest, it's going to save you like, I don't know, £15 to get the compilation. If that matters, cool. If not, also cool. Well, that's not my country line, Hank. Right, sorry, my chat up line. My chat up line is, where's my bestseller? Where's my Amazon bestseller country book? I've got 5 of them. Anyway, cool. I will continue chatting with you guys in the Patreon group, but I genuinely am signing out now, okay? So peace, much love, and I will see you for another stream again soon. Bye.